Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to take your drawing from your paper to the computer and make a very nice digital art on Photoshop. So what you need first is to have a drawing. Like now I have a drawing on a paper and you need to get it to the computer. So the first thing I do is to use my mobile phone. I take a picture of it and then email it to myself. I email to my email address. And once it's there, I go to the desktop, access my email, and then I could download it to the computer. Easy peasy. Whichever way you know how to do it is fine, but this is a little bit faster for me. Once you've scanned your picture and it's on your computer, the next thing you want to do is take it to your software you used for drawing. So I used Adobe Photoshop, and you could work with any dimension you like, maybe a square pixel, but it's really good to use a 300 dpi. You can drag and drop the image into Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop makes it a smart object, so you may want to rasterize it before doing anything else. The next thing we have to do is to clean up the scanned image. And I like to use my lasso tool to remove anything I don't want. It could, any extra thing, could be pencil or some background image other than the paper. So I focus on just the drawing area. Next, you want to clean it a bit. So you could play with your adjustment curves and make it a bit brighter and a bit of contrast. Once it's there, it's pretty good to go, but you don't want to overdo this process so it's not so bright you can't see it. So once you've done this, now the next stage is to now trace your work with your brush tool. So what I do here is I create a new layer on top of my scanned image and I begin to trace. I make my brush setting to have pen pressure because I work with a graphic tablet. I know a lot of us will be beginner here. We may not have a graphic tablet. You could do this with the mouse, but it will give you much stress. It's not as easy and fluid as using your graphic monitor or tablet. If you would like me to do a video on how to trace using your mouse, please let me know on the comment section and I will do just that. But for now, we'll be working with a graphic monitor. I like to set the settings to pen pressure. I use a hard brush, the hard round default brush, and I set the flow is 100 and I set the pen pressure so it has that fluidity as drawing it real life. Whatever you do, you don't want to trace on the same layer as the scanned image. So you pretty much have to do it on another layer above the scanned image and you trace. You want to draw, get the lines as much as possible. Anywhere you need improvements, you could improve, but you want to do this very nicely. And once you're done, you're satisfied with it, you could just set the layer to multiply and we move to the color stage. So the next stage is actually us doing our color flats. For the color flats, the first thing we need to do is to create a new layer below our line art. Our line art should be on multiply. So on this new layer, we'll now have to select the color we want to fill. So you can see that I'm selecting my colors, but I'm not selecting a saturated color at the saturated region. So if there's the red or the purple color you select, you have to put it in a range that is really, that is desaturated, it's less saturated. So selecting colors and filling, I use the bucket tool and I use my lasso. For the bucket fill, you could just select your color and you just fill it. But both of them have the way they work. The bucket fill is very fast. You just select your colors and you fill it. As long as it's a closed loop, the line are close, it will fill it nicely, but it always have the edge where the colors won't be seen. For instance, if you take out the line arts, you'll find that those regions where it's black, the color does not go beyond that. Why it's good for some other kind of images you want to do, it may not be your best fit. But if we select using the lasso tool, every region we select will be filled. So most times you could choose between each, but I like to use the lasso to just select everything and fill it. For this piece, I'll majorly be using my lasso to select, and I put the color where I want. You can also create layers beneath or above your flats. For instance, the head is above the cloth. So I would create a new layer and make a selection and just paint the head, or I will create a new layer above the cloth or hood he's wearing and do the leg. And in some cases, I will create a layer that similarly look behind, so that I have the freedom to select without so much restriction. Just make a fill, and at the end of the day, you merge it. Once you're done with everything, you merge your color together so it becomes one flat, and this flat is what will now be applying our shades and effects to make it look awesome. For our shading, we'll be using the cell shade method with a little bit of glow touches. So the first thing I normally do when coloring is to know where my light source is coming from. So once you determine where the light source is coming from, like this image, it's coming a bit from the top and it's behind him. So you may now want to know how to cast your shadow. I like to start with the shadow cast, but you can start with the lights if you wish. For the shadows, I still prefer to use my lasso tool. I make certain selection where I feel the light is being blocked, and I just do the selection first. After the selection, I can now decide to fill it with paint. Mind you, I'm doing this on a different layer, not the color layer, not the color flat layer, on a separate layer. So I like to do the shadow, the lights on different layers. No shadow is black, so I tend to use a dark purplish or bluish color depending on what I want, depending on how I want the image to be lit. Sometimes I could use a reddish, dark reddish brown. So for this one, I use the color, and once I fill it with my bucket tool, I play with the blend mode. I like to use the multiply or the hard light blend tool. You can see different blending, how it works. You could just play around and go through it and see how it does it, how they give you the result. Depending on the result you want, you could test the blending method. You can also reduce the opacity so that it is not too bright if you wish. So you do this for other parts that you feel light is not going to reflect, and you try it. You could stop here if you want, but why not push things further? So on another layer, we'll do the lighting. So for the lights now, for this one, I wouldn't want to overdo. I just want to use a light, just a light color to show where the light is. Once you've done that, I always use a secondary light to give it that 3D feel. So for the secondary lighting, I use a soft brush. I select a different color from the lights. Could be a purple, could be a blue. Then I just fill it gently on some of the areas I feel should have a different light reflection. There are places that need light reflection, so it just helps it to give it a little bit of depth. You can do it on various places. And once you're done with this, the last stage is to add a bit of glow. For the glow, I just select I could select white or select a brighter color close to white based on the color flat you want to apply it. Then just use your round soft brush, set to airbrush. You could make it a bit transparent. Then you feel it. You just paint on certain places you think the light will have a bright spot on it, certain places that it may reflect. You put it, then you could just go to filter and do a Gaussian blur, but slightly do a Gaussian blur, but not so much. And this layer, you can always change the blend mode to either screen, overlay, or whichever you choose. Then reduce the opacity, and voila, our painting is done. Nice and easy. And that's it for today's video. I hope you find this video interesting. So don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified when we come out with new cool videos like this. Until then, see you, my friend. Thank you very much.